Washington calls us backwards. They look down on us. Well, Washington can get bent.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. That is John Combest, JOHNCOMBEST. Put a .com on it. What do you have, John?
You have johncombest.com.
Very good, very good. John is the guy that puts together this thing for 23 years, 23 plus years. He, every single day, he doesn't miss one single day. He puts together this list of all the important things you should know about. It's like the Drudge Report of the state of Missouri. It's all like political stuff, and sometimes it's just sort of funny stuff, but mainly it's political, governmental stuff like that. You have, what, how many items would you say are on today's edition?
Oh, not many. Maybe like 15 or 20 today. Usually on a Monday it's pretty slow, Brad, because the weekends are generally pretty slow.
Well, now, hold on. What about all those press dumps on Friday afternoon? You don't have all that stuff on there.
What happened on Friday afternoon?
No, I mean, normally, when there's bad news.
I thought you were actually referring to something that is item number 3 today, but go ahead. I thought you were cleverly leading me in, Brad, but go ahead.
No, I'm not. But you know what? Since you said that, I'm cleverly leading John into number 3. We get this guy who comes along every morning.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what does he do?
Now on with the countdown.
Counts them down. And here's my clever intro to number 3, because I knew what John was going to talk about.
In third place.
Brad, are you a big fan of the Bravo network?
I don't have cable, and I have seen it before. I think I had a trial for a while. It just didn't float my boat, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would assume so. I don't think you're Bravo demographic, Brad. I don't think I am either. But a big star, excuse me. Well, the Bravo network was in town Friday to weigh in on a very important contest in Missouri's U.S. Senate race. Bravo superstar, producer, director, mogul, Andy Cohen was in St. Louis. Did you see any of this, Brad?
No, I didn't. And, quite honestly, I don't get the Andy Cohen thing. Everybody, oh, my God, it's Andy Cohen. What's his claim to fame? I mean, I don't really know his background, other than he's a gay guy. That's what he talks about, right?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up, Brad, because I didn't know anything about Andy Cohen. I have a relative who shall remain nameless. Let's say that they're a distant relative who years ago was like, oh my gosh, you got to listen to Andy Cohen. He's on Sirius Satellite Radio. And I was like, who is that? And she's like, oh my God, you don't know who Andy Cohen is? But I guess he started the Desperate Housewives, like the arguing series where they all go fight or whatever on Bravo. And then I guess he's the producer or maybe executive producer of that. I don't really know. And then I know he does a lot of like late night, like TV appearances where anytime there's celebrity gossip or all the catty stuff, he's involved in that.
Well, I always find it interesting that St. Louis has this thirst for, Andy Cohen's from St. Louis. Well, guess what? He left. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, he is in New York, so he's a New Yorker now. But, Brad, every once in a while, he comes back to Missouri and he weighs in on politics. And he was here Friday to stump for U.S. Senate candidate Lucas Kunce. So they made a stop at Firehouse. So this was on, and by the way, these links are up on my Saturday morning website. So if you go to johncombest.com, scroll down to Saturday, you'll see the news coverage. They did the cosplay thing, where like, Brad, you grew up in Spanish Lake, as did I. In preschool, I went to preschool right at the corner of Bell Fountain and Trampy. We went to the local firehouse right there on Larimore Road, and we got to dress up. One of our students got to dress up in like firefighter gear and like hold the firefighter foes. That was my buddy Eric. Shout out to my buddy Eric. And Lucas Kunce got to do this thing with Andy Cohen. So they did the cosplay thing where they put on the firefighter outfit and they posed for pictures. So that was cute. And then my dad was a firefighter, by the way. So my dad wasn't a cosplayer. He was actually a firefighter, not like a Village People, Andy Cohen type of dress up cosplay thing. But Andy Cohen then sat down with Lucas Kunce for some TV interviews where they talked about how great Lucas Kunce was and whatever. Andy Cohen has a long history of weighing in on U.S. Senate races. He supported a guy named Jason Kander, who ran unsuccessfully in 2016 for U.S. Senate. Andy Cohen was a big supporter of Claire McCaskill, who ran unsuccessfully for re-election in 2018, was a big supporter of Trudy Bush Valentine, who ran unsuccessfully in 2022 for U.S. Senate. So Andy Cohen comes in and crowns another U.S. Senator with Lucas Kunce. So it was cute. Like if you're into cosplay and you're into, grown men pretending to be firefighters or really important endorsements, I guess, check it out, Brad.
I just started to cough just as you finished there. Now, can I point something out here?
Yeah, please do.
You know what stolen valor is? Have you ever seen these guys approach?
Yeah, I have seen this, Brad.
So isn't this stolen valor where they're dressing up as firefighters and they're not really firefighters? I mean, if they
I see your point.
If they put on army uniforms, people go, no, hold on a minute. You're not in the army. You can't wear that uniform. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Lucas Kunce's point would be that whatever union that he's endorsed by in this particular thing, I think it's kind of silly for, and I said the same thing about Republicans who like to go down to the border. If you're not a federal elected official and you're running for city councilman and you go down to the Mexico border and you stage a photo op, like talking to somebody as if you're going to do something about immigration, there's real immigration border agents down there. Like, I think it's kind of silly to pretend like you're going to get real tough on the border if you're a city council Republican. And if you're running for U.S. Senate and you have to cosplay and put on a real firefighter outfit, I don't know. It's just not me. But you know what, Brad? I mean, I'm not a candidate for office. I don't have to pose and know I'm going to lose in 2 weeks. But the good thing is, if you're Lucas Kunce, when's the next time? When are you ever going to have an opportunity to cosplay as a firefighter? But this is it. You're in 2 weeks. You're going back to D.C. and you're going to work in an office,
Doesn't this perpetuate the myth of or the image of the gay people always dressing up in things? You know what I mean? Like
the village people.
The village people kind of thing. You had the cop, you had the Indian, you had the construction worker. I see, this is what's interesting to me, that everybody's gotten so super, oh, look at what he did. I mean, but yet it only goes one way. Just like, for example, we'll talk about this in B Block, Trump working at McDonald's. Did you see this?
I happen to see this. Yeah, I like it a lot, Brad. I think it's awesome.
Okay, well, we'll say that for the next block. Okay, number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
It's not every day a Hollywood and New York celebrity comes to Missouri, but it's not every day that a nationally known newspaper covers a state representative story. And a state rep story in St. Charles County, Brad. That's right. theGuardian, the paper from the UK. A reporter named Sam Levin, who's actually, Brad, a really good reporter. He worked in St. Louis here for a while. He worked for the Riverfront Times. Very thorough reporter. He did a piece. He came to O'Fallon, Missouri, and he did a piece on a woman who's running for state representative. Now, you say, why would a guy from the UK come here and write a story about a state rep race? Well, the woman's name is Susan Chumway, and she's running in that open state rep seat. Remember Justin Hicks left the state legislature, Brad?
Right, yeah.
And so there was that primary, a vicious primary between Max Calfo and a guy named Mike Costello. And the Democrat in that race, a woman who's filling the Democrat ballot slot, is a big advocate of LGBTQIA asterisk plus folks. And so Sam did a profile of her, and the gist of it, the gist of this hero profile is that there was a girl who decided that she wanted to be a boy, and she felt castigated by her family or something like that. So I guess she moved out, and then this Susan woman took this young girl into her home, and I guess has lived with her for a while. I'm not certain if she still lives with her. But so this was a feel good story about being compassionate, to people who want to. Our number 3 story was about cosplaying as a firefighter. This is, I guess, cosplaying as a boy. I should point out too, Brad, that this story was brought to us by Tony's Kansas City, or as you call him, Kansas City Tony. I love when you call him Kansas City Tony. I picture, when you say Kansas City Tony, I picture like walking into Ragazzi's or Canetto's and seeing some big fat dago at a corner table, and you got to go say hi to Kansas City Tony before you sit down. Anyway, so it's rare, Brad, that you get national and global attention really for a state rep race. This woman has no chance of winning, so she's doing the delusional thing and the vanity thing where she files for office, to get some attention. And what better attention can you get than global attention? Imagine if you're a Democrat wasting your time running for state rep in another district, like you're running in some other St. Charles district. Imagine how jealous and envious you are that another loser vanity candidate gets a national and global profile in such a well-known publication.
Boy,
I would consider, folks, if you're interested in it, click on the link, scroll through it. They have a picture of the girl posing with this woman who has her name on the ballot. And good for Sam Levin for covering Missouri again.
Okay, what's her name again?
Her name is Susan Chumway. Now, to give you an idea of how good of a chance she has to win, Brad, there were exactly 4,185 votes for Republican state rep candidates in the 2024 primary, and she got 1,450 votes for state rep in the Democratic primary. So she obviously knows she's not going to win, so she's running an egotistical vanity campaign to make herself feel good, I guess. And it's about the time of year, Brad, where my patience runs a little thin with these candidates.
Susan, if you're listening right now, or if any of our friends of Susan Chumway, was that you said her name was?
Yeah. I think it's a cross between chum, like the fat, greasy stuff you throw in the water, and Amway. So It's kind of a scam, to run, and then also like fat, disgusting, oily stuff you just throw in the water. Chumway.
Susan Chumway. You have an open invitation to be on this show on November 6th. When you win, you can come on here and you can say...
She can come on with Lucas Kunce.
You could say, John Combest, na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
That's right.
Susan,
I will eat crow, Brad. I'd be happy to.
You have an open invitation. Matter of fact, you can do na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na for at least 5 minutes, and we won't make it so John can turn down his headphones. We'll lock his volume control, so he has to listen for 5 minutes of Susan, you going na-na-na-na-na. So there, boy, I tell you what, you're brutal on these people that are Democrats, and I mean in Republican.
No, yeah, and Republicans. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, I mean, you're just brutal on these people. I'm telling you.
I am, and so I wrote. I didn't link to it today because I thought it might be a little bit of overkill, but I wrote a 3-part series for the Missouri Times on how to run a good vanity campaign and the ways to go about scamming people out of money. I'm not suggesting people scam others out of money. But if you're one of these loser candidates who wants to see your name on a yard sign and feel important for a few months, how to do it? Like I've seen it firsthand, Brad, and I've seen it for my first campaign. Not to read my resume here, but was 1994. So I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've seen a lot of losers waste a lot of people's time. And it's this time of year where I get pretty impatient with them, Brad.
John, let me give you a little history lesson here. Once upon a time...
Is this about a guy that once came down an escalator and nobody knew who he was? And guess what? He had no name ID and no money. And somehow he got elected president. His name was Donald Trump, but he's going to lose to Kamala.
No.
I don't care what the polls in Pennsylvania say.
This is about, you got it right, but everybody knew who he was. He came down the escalator, and when he announced for president, everybody go, yeah, right, he doesn't have a snowball chance in hell. And what, 8 months later, or 10 months later, or 12 months later, he was president of the United States.
I know. His name was Susie Chumway.
No,
right?
It wasn't. And the interesting part of it was theGuardian would have nothing to do with Trump. They wouldn't interview him. So there. Okay. Last but not least.
The number one...
We spend a little bit of time on this show, Brad, occasionally giving a little tap to the Post-Dispatch. We like to kind of talk about mainstream media. I won't put that burden on you. Let's just say John does. I tap the Post-Dispatch a little bit for being liberal and being out of touch. But, and this is a big but, this is a Susie Chumway size but, there was a remarkably self-aware editorial run by the Post-Dispatch yesterday that I have up on my website, on Sunday's website. And Brad, the Post-Dispatch was talking about their own endorsements. Now, you have asked on this show, Brad, masterfully, with a great deal of insight and prescience, do newspaper endorsements even matter? Do issue group endorsements even matter? The Post-Dispatch came out yesterday, Brad, and wrote a quite self-aware editorial saying, you know what? endorsements really don't mean as much as they used to. We're going to do much fewer of them this year, and we're going to do even fewer endorsements in the future. Now, what do you think about that, Brad?
Well, I don't think endorsements do anything, to be honest with you. I mean, sometimes I think they become negative. I mean, think of people like right now. What's the one I saw the one yesterday? One of the football stars for the Steelers was stumping for Trump.
Antonio Brown, yeah.
Right. And let's say you're an Antonio Brown fan, but you're a Democrat. And the minute Antonio Brown comes out for Trump, you're going, don't like him anymore. I can tell you stories about people that I know that when they have heard someone else endorse, I can name one person in particular, which is actually sort of a funny story, but I won't say who that is. That when someone came out and endorsed someone she liked, instantly she didn't like that person anymore. It was like, okay, I'm done with that person.
But let me interrupt, Brad. Let's not. I get exactly what you're saying, but I think there's a few different type of endorsements. So if you're a union guy and you have a competitive Democratic state rep district, I could see those guys that are halfway pay attention to politics wanting to know which Democrat to vote for in a Democrat primary. I could see the importance of that. And if you're a young woman, let's say, who's not that involved in politics, and Taylor Swift comes out and says, hey, Kamala is one of us, you should support her, I could see them voting for that. But I think there's a difference even between that star power and maybe the blowback that you're talking about, and a newspaper editorial board in 2024 thinking that their endorsement is going to make a difference. And as the Post-Dispatch said, again, very self-awarely, they said, look, we're pretty much just at the point of endorsing almost every Democrat, with a few notable exceptions. We're just going to endorse the Democratic ticket, so why even bother putting time into it anymore?
Well,
and Brad, you lived through this era before I did, and even when I got involved 30 years ago, the Post-Dispatch endorsements really, they meant much more than they do today. So maybe if you're a Democrat in 2026, let's say Wesley Bell is still in office. That's some foreshadowing. Let's say Wesley Bell is still in office in 2026 and a Democrat is running against him. And you're like, if you're a white man in the city, God forbid, for some reason, you're like, oh my God, I don't know who to vote for. The election's in 3 weeks. Who does Andy Cohen say? Let's check Bravo and the Post-Dispatch. Maybe a Post-Dispatch endorsement would mean something. But other than that, I don't know why the Post would continue this time-wasting experience.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a good point. They're essentially saying, look, let me sort of synopsize what you just said. The Post-Dispatch is saying, hey, it ain't what it used to be, but we're still going to give some endorsements, right? They're essentially saying...
Exactly, yeah. I think that's a pretty reasonable approach to take.
Okay, so what that's ultimately saying is, in my book, you say they used to be more important. I don't think they were ever that important. And my thing is, like, talking about egotistical, if XYZ politician, let's say Joe Schmo from St. Charles County, comes out and endorses Bill Eigel for county executive, I'm going like, okay, who does he think he is?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I get exactly what you're saying.
like, why embrace Bill Eigel? Okay, dude, who are you?
Right. And, so to your point exactly, that's more about if Bill wins, they could be like, hey, Bill, remember on August 2nd, it was a tough decision, but I looked at the polls and I endorsed you.
Right. Or, hey, Bill, remember I worked at the polls and I took some of those ballots.
Remember, Bill, I wasn't the guy that you had kicked out of a fundraiser.
No.
How's Cindy Christofanelli doing, by the way? Can she call in someday?
I haven't talked to her in a while. She's sort of gone underground on me. She's very much involved in matter of fact, if you really want to know the truth, what her and I have talked about recently is there's this sort of fight going on in St. Charles County for the Republican Central Committee. There's a new generation of people who are trying to take it over that are somewhat akin to what county is that? Where
Vernon County.
Yeah. There's like a Vernon County group that was trying to take over the St. Charles County Central Committee. So, that's what she's given me information on. She says she's been that kind of stuff all the time, and to the point where it's just. And by the way, I have to tell you this. I shouldn't brag about this. We're running late. I have been asked to to do candidate school again. Can you believe this?
Oh, you just stepped on. I was just gonna say we could all agree that the county committee went downhill once they invited you to come talk, Brad. That's the exact point where they reached their apex, and then it was all downhill.
The wheels fell off. Okay, we'll talk about that next break. Hold on a minute. Let me get this straight. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T. John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?